In this video, I'm going to show you a nice gentle flow that you can do to help open up your spine and release any shoulder tension. Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, I'm Marcia and I teach yoga every week, some kind of a flow or a sequence that you can do for your Jiu Jitsu practice. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell, and that way you don't miss a single video. So let's get started. We're gonna start on our hands and our knees. So making sure that we create the proper alignment. So having our fingers facing forward. Again, I always like to spread my hands, roll my wrists, and get my whole hand on the ground. Now I'll make sure that my wrists are under my elbows and my elbows are under my shoulders. And the last thing I want to do is avoid this hyperextension, so I'm going to turn my elbows to face each other here. I want to make sure that my knees are under my hips, and my feet can either be on the floor like this or you can keep them alive toes. I prefer the alive toes for these. Then as you go into these rounds of cat-cow, this is going to be a really nice gentle way to start warming up our spine. So just thinking as you inhale, you're going to start with tucking the tailbone in and rounding the lower back. And as the lower back starts to round, you'll feel the upper back wanting to round, and then the chin will tuck in towards the chest, letting the head release down towards the floor. On my inhale, I'll start to lift the head up and allow the spine to drop down as I arch my back and roll my tailbone up. So again, inhaling, curling the tailbone, really exaggerating this and grabbing this big push up through the top of my shoulders, pressing down through my hands so I can really feel a nice stretch here. And then exhaling, allowing the spine to roll down, lifting my chest, and then lifting my head all the way up. So starting to look up towards the sky. And then following this for about 10 breath cycles. So really using it to help warm up the spine. Also using this to get into your breath, matching your breath with your actions. And you can go as fast or as slow that works for you here. So if you feel like you need to move a little bit quicker, it's fine. Or you can really enjoy each stretch vertebrae by vertebrae by vertebrae, really finding that space between them and really warming up the spine. And then when we return to flat back, I'm going to still make sure that all my alignment's in check. I haven't moved anything. And then I'm going to put all my weight into my right side of my knee so that I can lift my left leg up and start to extend it back. Now as I extend my leg back, I want to point my toe, and I'm going to keep my crown of my head pushing forward. So now my spine's in a nice straight line here. And then I'm ready to lift my right arm up. So lifting my right arm up, I'm going to think that I'm stretching out through my right fingers and back through my left toes and into this balancing cat idea. So we'll stay here for a few breaths, noticing if your abdomen starts to sag, you want to draw it up. That's going to support the spine. Keep the tailbone tucking and keep that left thigh bone lifting up towards the ceiling. Keep stretching out through your fingers and out through your toes. 2 or 3 more breaths here. And then you can bring that right hand down, left knee down, and return to your hands and knees pose. So preparing to do it on the other side. So just putting a little bit more weight into the left side as you lift the right leg up, pointing the toe, lifting up through the thighs. So you want to lift your whole leg, trying to create this evenness. Now notice if your hip wants to turn up, see if you can keep it level with the floor here. So as my hip stays level, I lift up through my thigh and then extend out through my left fingers. So left fingers are extending out, right toes are extending out. I'm getting this super long stretch. I'm still stretching out through the crown of my head, drawing my abdomen in to support my spine, tucking my tailbone, and then staying here for a few breaths. Creating a nice, strong spine, nice, healthy spine. And then as we bring that arm down, bring your foot down. And then what's really nice here is to go into a couple more repetitions of that cat-cow. So you can even change what your breath work on here. So as I inhale, maybe I'll start to look up And then exhale, rounding my spine and coming back deeper into the pose. And you may notice as you do this, as your spine gets a little bit warm, you'll feel that you can move a little deeper into the pose here. So just repeating this for 5 or so breaths, using the breaths to help open up the spine. And then returning back to your hands and your knees. Let's take our knees a little bit wider, toes together, and coming into child pose. So as I sit my heels back, I want them to reach to my heels. If they cannot, you could always put a blanket or your gi top or something underneath to help aid this. Now I'm gonna walk my arms forward and keep them in line with my shoulders as I keep this nice long spine. So if your head comes to the floor, then that's great. Otherwise, just try to keep it in between your ears. So extending out through the fingers here. I'm gonna keep extending out through my head and keep dropping my hips back. And we'll stay in child pose for a few breaths. Now this is an active child pose, so you don't want the arms flopping. You wanna keep this nice long spine. And then we'll lift up just a little bit, enough to take this right arm and slide it under and coming into like a thread the needle idea. So a little bit of a gentle twist, and I'm really trying to get this shoulder to the floor and the back of my arm on the floor. So as I extend out through that hand, I'm gonna walk my left fingers to the other direction, and that'll help open up my spine. Keep aiming the hips down towards the heels and keep opening that elbow up to get that nice twisting action. And we'll stay here for a few breaths. And then on your next inhale, coming all the way out, stretching yourself all the way back forward and returning into child pose again. And then let's repeat on the other side. So I'm gonna draw this left hand through, trying to scrape the back of my arm to the floor the best I can. And I really want to get the tip of my shoulder all the way to the tip of my fingers, as much of it on the floor as I can. I'm gonna walk my right fingers to the other side, and that'll open my chest up here. So thread the needle. Keep my hips lowering towards my heels. 3 to 5 breaths. And then coming all the way back to center. Walking your fingers forward, dropping the hips down, coming back into child pose. And then bringing your knees forward. Keep your hands exactly where they were. Curl your toes under, lift your hips up, and just finding yourself into a downward dog. So this is a great way to help stretch the spine. It keeps everything in nice alignment here. So things I want to think about, and especially if I have a really tight back, I'm going to bend my knees a little bit more. I keep a deeper bend. So as I bend my knees, I can grab that concavity in my back. So I'll roll my tailbone up, kind of like the cat-cow action, and let the head drop towards the floor. Try to keep the arms straight, pressing down through the hands. And as I lift up through my shoulders, my legs might start to straighten. But you want to work to keep a nice straight back here. So even if you're working here for a little while, you'll find the benefits that come into the spine, which is what we're kind of focusing on. So either way, finding yourself into this beautiful downward dog with straight arms, straight legs, or keeping the legs a little bit bent. Keep pressing down through your hands. Keep the elbows turning in towards each other. Shoulders are lifted. Draw the shoulder blades down and in, and that'll help open the chest up and lift the hips up towards the ceiling. And then after you've stayed here as long as it works for you, just hinging forward and coming into a plank. And then just because this is a nice gentle practice, we'll bring our knees down and our chest down, and we'll move our hands back behind us here. So we want to move into Salabhasana. So inhale, lifting your head. Exhale, lifting your leg. Extend back through the fingers. And then you can return and rest for a few minutes. So let's take a look at this as a flow. So starting on our hands and knees, inhaling, cat, exhaling, cow, coming back to flat back, balancing cat on one side, balancing cat on the other side. Dropping all the way back into child pose. Extending the right arm under, opening the chest, coming all the way back. Hands go back forward. Taking that left hand under, coming this direction. Coming all the way back. Pressing the hands down, pressing the feet down, lifting the hips up. Downward dog. Moving into plank. Keeping the abdomen lifted, thighs are moving back. Knees down, chest down. Looking up. Legs come up, Salabhasana. And then taking a rest. So hands can come here, you can rest your head, and then staying here for a few breaths, and repeating as many times as you like to. So there it is, a nice gentle flow that you can do to help open up your spine and help open up your shoulders. If you got any value from that, please hit that like button. Make sure you share this technique with all of your friends, and I'll see you in the next video.